Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
We're in beautiful Bradenton Beach, Florida, and pretty soon it's going to be time to play golf in Michigan. But we're here to speak with Colein, who has a very interesting background and view of golf courses. How are you doing, Carol?
Very good, thank you.
Well, you are an irrigation consultant. In fact, you are actually in charge of the association. It's the American Society of Irrigation Consultants. Is that right?
Correct. That is correct.
But you've had this career where you see golf courses from the ground. What does it take to be an irrigation consultant? What do you do when you work on these golf courses?
Irrigation consultant is definitely a combination of art and science. Not unlike a golf course architect, except we're looking at the nuts and bolts. But in the same thing, like Jerry's projects in particular, I would always see the raw land first. And he would walk to a spot and he'd say, "This is going to be the such and such green." And I'm like, how does he see this? That's amazing. But in the meantime, I'm looking at it from a different angle. Where's my water coming from? And how the heck am I going to get my water up here? What kind of grade changes do I have? What kind of pressure elevation changes? Is that going to impact my system? So I'm following, seeing what he's seeing, but in a totally different way. My job's going to be to make his golf courses look beautiful. But seeing it from the raw land, and then he would do the blueprints. So you're reading the blueprints, and again, the grade, and you're visualizing this plan. In the meantime, you're laying irrigation on top of it. So then, as you do the plans, goes out for bids. When it's under construction, golf courses are always being modified as they're being built. And that's probably the biggest challenge that an irrigation consultant has, because ours is nuts and bolts. And, this piece has to meet this piece, and theirs is more freeform. So as they're changing, I'm scrambling, trying to keep up with, oh my gosh, how am I going to adapt my irrigation? So you're doing it on the fly, which is difficult in a technical world. But you're doing it and put it all together. I have to say, one of the other things that is great, you're out there and they've got a cleared area, and I'm like, where's the fairway lines? And Jerry was always famous for, it's going to go up and it's going to go around that tree and then it's going to swing back in, and I'm looking down this fairway and there's hundreds of trees, which one is he talking about? And I'm like, well, which tree? And he's got other things on his mind. He says, just work it out, he says. So I'm standing there like, where's the seed lines? I don't see them. So you lay him on the ground, and then he'll come back. He's like, no, I meant 20 foot to the left. Oh, okay, fine. We move all the sprinkler staking. So that's the world of an irrigation consultant.
Well, it's fascinating to hear you talk about that, but I'm wondering, what kind of a background and do you have to get into that kind of business?
A lot of people come from engineering. Some come from the turf end. Some will be architect. Mine was very unusual. Being a female in the 60s, I was very good in math and science. So, of course, I was said, you'll be a school teacher, because that's what girls did. And so off I went to Central Michigan University to be a school teacher. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And it was a summer job. The summer job was working at an irrigation company. And I also was somewhat good in art. So all of a sudden, here it was like I could apply my art and my science in one spot. And I loved the industry. Just instantly fell in love with it. Changed my curriculum. Finished up at Oakland University. And so even though my degree is in English literature, I did a lot of the technical classes. It was an independent study program, and did enough electrical engineering to be dangerous, enough mechanical engineering to be dangerous, and put it all together into an independent degree.
That's really a fascinating story, and I understand, because it was early in the 60s, that you are the very first female independent consultant in the irrigation business.
As I understand it, yes. I am The first.
A pioneer.
Yes, a pioneer for sure. Matter of fact, I was somewhat of a pioneer just as being an independent irrigation consultant, because there were a handful out on the West Coast, and they were operating, and I would meet them at meetings, and they always say, Carol, just go on your own, go on your own. And I'm like, I can't go on my own. I mean, everybody's giving away irrigation design. So the idea of going to clients and saying, I'm going to charge you to do the same thing, was a leap. And I finally did that, and it would have been in about 1981, and I believe I was the first east of the Mississippi that became an independent irrigation consultant.
Well, you've worked on so many different kinds of courses, and you've worked with many different architects, with Jerry Matthews, of course, and I heard mention Jack Nicklaus.
Yes, we did a few courses for Jack Nicklaus. We did down in Indiana and up in Michigan. So we have those. We did work with Art Hills. We've done... actually, my forte after a while actually became working at existing golf courses, and as their systems needed updating. So, like I did work at Crystal Downs and Birmingham Country Club, and
well, that brings to mind how much the business must have changed from early days before you had in-ground irrigation systems to the newer ones.
Well, in my career, there's always was the in-ground systems, but most of them were just the manual quick coupling valve, where in the middle of the night, people are running around plugging sprinklers into these outlets. It was dangerous, and labor just became more pricey. So we went to the automatic, but I saw you go from single row system down the middle of a fairway and a few heads around the greens to now there was 2-row systems. Then there's 3-row systems. And, now even in Michigan, it's not unusual to have a golf course with 2,000 sprinkler heads on it, where we would have had maybe 200 when I first started in the business. And, of course, now it's all computerized. The biggest thing now, though, is how people are watering is based on soil moisture and temperature. And, water is becoming such a precious commodity. I mean, it always has been. Certainly the two coasts recognized it before we have. We're just starting to recognize it here. But the technology is definitely going to actual measuring of soil moisture and temperature and automatically calculating water use from there.
Wow, that's really sophisticated to have to do that, too.
Sophisticated now.
That brings in the math and science part big time.
Yes.
Well, Carol, you've also taken on this big job now of being in charge of the association. Have you, how does that change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, changes it a lot. I'm actually not doing irrigation consulting anymore. I was kind of in a semi-retired, golf. Nobody was spending money on golf irrigation, so unless I wanted to travel overseas, not a lot was happening here. So I was at the point in my career where I was kind of just pulling back, and the position of Executive Director of American Society of Irrigation Consultants came up. So they contacted and asked if I'd be interested, and at first I'm like, no, I don't know anything about it. And no. And the more I thought about it, I said, why not? So I just started in January, and probably the biggest change has been for Jerry, because all of a sudden his companion is glued to a computer all day. So it's been a lifestyle change, but it will get smoother as things work out. And Michigan State University is just such an excellent resource that I intend to capitalize on, and to get some student interns to help on different phases of it. Particularly in building up the website and, in communications, and give the students a chance and give me a break.
It's bringing that English career back to the front.
It absolutely is. Even as an irrigation consultant, I always said you didn't have to have all the answers. You have to know how to find the answers. Well, you find the answers by reading, and you find the answers by, communicating what you now have learned to somebody else. You know, when you would go to architects or board meetings and you had to explain irrigation in a way that they could understand. And I relied a great deal on my degree in literature. I never regretted that.
Well, it sounds to me like you've also found a way to take all these years of experience and found a way to pass it on to the younger generation coming up.
Yes, even in the group, it's interesting. There's a lot of the old war horses like me that have been around, and but then you've got the younger generation, and the challenge being they interact more on the internet world. You know, they're getting their information, they're communicating through email, and the face-to-face relationships don't seem as important to them as they did to us older groups, that was the only way we did get to find out, you know, what are you doing on the West Coast? What's happening out in New York? And we went on face-to-face meetings, and we all became friends. So I think that's the challenge I see as the executive director, is how to get that person-to-person contact back into the organization.
I've never found that a virtual drink quite does it.
That's a good line. I like that.
Well, Carol, congratulations on a great career and a very interesting new phase of it.
Why, thank you very much.